Go. All right, welcome to the 5 a.m. Mester Scrum Show. This is our Thursday night edition where we interview people would call change agents in the industry, in our industry, and people that can help change our lives and help us learn new ideas and mindsets and bring some diversity and thought process and expertise into our world. And here we have Viktoriia Kondratova, business analyst who brings business analysts and diversity and culture expertise into your business. Her story takes us from the United States to Ukraine and back again. It's going to be an interesting tale of her adventures. And this interview is not the classic interview where we talk about just agile and just business, but we're gonna get to know Viktoriia a little bit, her journeys, her career, her travel that she wants to share with people and teams around the world. And with that, before we dive into our discussion, Viktoriia, can you share some of your background journey? Tell us something a little bit about yourself. Tell us something that, is not in the LinkedIn profile that would be interesting. Feel free. Go for it.
Thanks, Brad, for welcoming me today. And it's a great honor to be here and to talk about my experience, about my professional life, about my education, about my path to success, because I do think that I'm a successful person. And it's a definition of from where I started and where I am right now, which is a great difference. So just to talk about me, like some special traits. First of all, I was born in Ukraine, and I grew up in the Manian region of Ukraine, which is right now currently is occupied by Russians, which is very sad. That means that my native tongue is Russian, but right now I only speak Ukrainian, and it's my personal choice, and it's my personal decision to do that. It's my, national identity, which makes difference and really means a lot to me. So I grew up there. My first education, my first degrees in accounting and business audit, and that happened in Ukraine. And then I ended up going to exchange as an exchange student for summer programs, work and travel programs in the United States for 3 summers in a row, where I finally found a way to get some savings and earn some money and go and get my education in a Western country. I wanted to go to study in US, but it was very complicated. So because it's like really, really expensive. But I found a solution. In 2011, I went to Germany and I got my master's degree in business management, in international business management in Wiesbaden, European Business School. It is nearby Frankfurt. And I also did internship in Standard & Poor's as a rated analyst. And I worked, I worked in that also in one of the supply chains internships as well. But it happened that I had to go back to Ukraine for because of the Revolution of Dignity in 2014. It was also like a call of duty and national identity to go there to help, basically to change their course of actions and bring democracy to Ukraine. We had to stand for our rights in 2014, like we're doing right now, but it was different back then. So I was much younger and, like very idealistic, thinking that young people can change the course of actions in Ukraine and make it different and make it better for the future generations. And right now we have what we have. But my journey, like with the professional world started in United States because in 2015 I started working as a financial business analyst in a international company in Ukraine. And then I got a privilege to get a work visa to United States. In 2015, I got to United States and I got my work visa. And then in 2016, I got my first job with visa on the credit card company in Ashburn, Virginia. And then that was the first time I was introduced to analysis like it is as a junior business analyst. And I was also, at the same time, I was introduced to ServiceNow because for their ITSM processes, IT as a service management, service desk software, they were switching from Remedy to ServiceNow on cloud solution, and they wanted to reintegrate processes for help desk following the ITIL best practices. And that's how I got to be introduced to the ServiceNow as a platform of future for their ITSM processes and much more. Like when you look in ServiceNow on a longer scope of development and growth.
Okay, well, it sounds like you gave us a lot of information on your journey back and forth because that was like my next question, and you gave a lot of factors on your going back and forth, and the recent, what made, I think you returned back to Ukraine for a little while, and now
Yeah.
you're back here. Can you talk a little bit about that going back to Ukraine, post
Yes.
all that, and then why you came back now?
So basically, the reality was that in 2019, I was working from 2016 to 2019 in the United States. But the company that called my H-1B, the work visa, was not very, not very
Helpful.
reliable.
Okay.
Reliable.
Reliable.
They
Okay.
failed the extension process. They didn't do their due diligence and they did not apply for my extension, for my visa extension on time. So at the end in 2019, at the beginning of the year, I found out that I had to go back to Ukraine because my visa expired and I'm not granted an extension. So at that point of time, my contract with visa was almost over. And I mean, it did not really make sense for them to start a new application process and user to reapply for visa, and it
Right.
takes a lot of time. So I really, obeyed, and I went back to Ukraine in 2019, and it was the best decision how I have ever taken
Why do you
because
say that? What happened? What was?
like from 2014 I was there to 2019, the country has grew and changed so much,
Yeah.
especially in IT sector, that it was impossible to believe. It was like day and night. Their capital became so well internationalized. There were so many people looking for developers, and Ukrainians proved themselves as a good developers and that really technically averse and technically literate people. So there were a lot of businesses looking for the Ukrainian developers, business analysts, testers, product owners, product managers, all the suite of development SDLC. And I found job in 2 weeks. When I came to Ukraine, I found job in 2 weeks. And then I worked at this job for a year. And then at the end of this year, I was contacted by a different company. And I worked for them 2.5 years. But then, as we know, the situation changed because I was not planning to go to live Ukraine. I was doing very well. I was still working with ServiceNow, with the consulting companies that was providing services for European-based clients and Asian-based clients.
Mm-hmm.
I will talk later about it. Like we had a Japanese client. Their experiences is very valuable and probably not comparable to anything else.
Okay.
And yeah, so I was so happy. I was almost ready to invest in my own apartment. and it's in 3 years of being in Ukraine, like I mean, I was able to save enough for down payment. So it was really good. And then just on the night of 24th of February 2022, everything changed. And I didn't have any other choice, but I had to go to safe haven, and it was United States. I still had my connections here, and I had people who were able to support me in a like documents on process and financial support, because you had to apply for affidavits of financial support to be able to come to United States.
Okay. So now, what kind of work agreement do you have now, or what do you
So
have
right
now?
now I do have a work agreement from state, which gives me an very similar rights like green card holder. So I can work to any company and to any business without sponsorship. And on the only difference between green card and the work authorization that I have, it's called temporary protected status, and it's granted to the refugees all over the world. So the only difference is green card leads to you to leads to citizenship, but this status does not.
Okay. Well, hopefully you figure out where your journey is going to go, whether it be a citizen here in the United States or back into Ukraine maybe one day. Well, wish you the
Yeah,
best
I
either
don't
way.
know. Right now, I want to stay here because here I can help Ukraine more than just being there.
Okay. Okay. Well, welcome you here, and thank you for coming back, and hopefully we can help you out as well. Um, you mentioned a lot of countries that you worked with over the past. How does this multi-country experience help you improve your analyst of international business operations, right? And not
Yeah,
or just to build better products in general. People always think, oh, it's just the U.S. market, but if you my opinion, if you
yeah,
market overseas, you have to understand the overseas client as well. Even when we hire people offshore to do onshore work, they need to understand what we do here in the States too, so they have a good idea of the product. You mentioned your experience with Japanese and other cultures. So, how does all that help you as a business analyst?
it's a very good question. Thank you for it. Overall, it is a unique experience because you can relate and you can get good understanding of people's psychology, how they are working, their work ethics. And I can tell you that Japanese are the most diligent people I have ever met. The amount of details they go to, it's just unbelievable because there we could not do for our product for we launched for them service desk from scratch, and because they were using their in-house legacy tool before ServiceNow, and
Mm-hmm.
then we launched ServiceNow for them. The user acceptance testing they did was like on our honestly, we wrote down the test cases, but the amount of work they dedicated to the user acceptance testing was in such a great great diversion that we were able to eliminate, I think, like maybe 40% of our inefficiencies that could be in their system if they did not perform the user acceptance testing as thorough as they did. And they took it so seriously. They dedicated to like divisions to the user acceptance testing, like all divisions. They had several people, I think 3 or 4 people from each division, like let's say service desk, like
Mm-hmm.
the first line of support, second line of support, third line of support, knowledge management people who were creating the knowledge articles for knowledge base for their end users themselves. for their catalog items, just to be able to order stuff and like equipment or whatever they needed for the work, like onboarding or files like the laptop or
Okay. Yeah, like all the
all
equipment they need to give people. Yeah.
exactly what they needed. So it was amazing because we tested from our sides like a functional and regression
Hmm.
testing, but we were not able to catch the bugs that they actually caught.
Okay.
It was one of the main, we had the user provisioning. We had to integrate our AD, Active Directory to ServiceNow, and it's done through the LDAP integration, which is,
Yep.
which the masses in ServiceNow. And we were using unique identifier as the email of the person. And then on on our, like, I think at the second iteration for the user provisioning, they kind of came back to us and was like, it was like, we have a case when she was Yasuko-san, and right now Yasuko-san, and right now she's like Yasuko Han-san. That she changed the first name and second last name, and the email is not the same. So we had to revise our approach to the identification of the users because that could cause like a huge mess in the system.
Yeah, you needed some kind of transition capability, I guess.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly. And
Okay, cool.
there was absolutely like, I am so proud that I worked with Japanese because their work ethics also made me work better
Yeah.
and made me bring all those directives and concept-wise, even think out of the box better than before.
How was you also mentioned you were in Germany for a little while. How
Uh,
how was
Ger-
how was
yeah.
Germany and that activities?
So Germany is they teach you to learn.
Okay.
They really teach you to do research. They are very diligent in the research. And my entire education was based on the research. I have on my LinkedIn profile my research paper dedicated to sustainability.
Okay.
And back in 2012 or 13, I forgot which was the year I wrote that paper. It was highly praised. And I was like really appraised and I was really happy because I did so much research to deliver that sustainability to total cost of ownership ratio, just to understand how it can be applied in reality, in real life. And they're giving you real life examples
Okay.
how it can be done.
Interesting. Maybe we'll have to invite you to our meetup one day, and you can show us how to apply that to
Yeah, I
that
mean,
cost benefit. That'd be awesome. Um. So so you've done a lot in ServiceNow and everything, right? You have a few years ServiceNow experience. Please share a big takeaway from a positive point and maybe a negative point from a ServiceNow application used by companies or teams. Like, give us something that you've seen ServiceNow really do well for a team, or maybe something negative. Maybe they applied it incorrectly, or something was not connected right, or something just seemed like they weren't using the full power of ServiceNow. Can you share something about that?
definitely. I can tell that ServiceNow is a tremendously efficient platform. And it has so many options for the digitalization and automation of the workflows and processes in your company. That I think that's really the end of that process are the skies, because really kind of they started as a service desk company. They started with ITSM process, and then they grew to even to procurement and finance right now. And also they have field management, which is like really unique capability because they're all related, right? I mean, you have, like, let's say you have a server. but you don't need to. Maybe you have to do some manipulations in terms of hardware instead of just software, right? So you need someone to go and do the work on field, and they have this really great suite which is related to the field management. But the complexity of ServiceNow, because of so many workflows interrelated with each other, the platform is very complex. And usually it's also very cost driven. So in order for you to, I mean, you buy licenses for ServiceNow, but in order for ServiceNow to function properly, you have to encounter and you have to put it in your mind that you will encounter additional costs. Like, for example, to set up a database with your configuration items. And configuration item, I mean, it can be anything, just from the laptop to the license, to your software, to, I don't know, even to the asset, like let's say, I don't know, like so switchers or routers or whatever they are in your system, in your network. All that has to be it has to be recorded in your database, right? Because otherwise, how you can monitor the work of a service desk or any other process without having the elements that help you run this process recorded. And a lot of times, people fail to, because they cannot afford like plugins. Plugins, it's what you put on top of existing functionality to bring new functionality, which is born and created by ServiceNow as a platform. And in many instances, in many cases, companies do not want to spend additional money to buy those plugins to allow them function better. And so they use cheap or free options. And then they fail to build this database, which is called configuration database management or configuration database. So they failed to build this database correctly, and then the entire insufficient process takes place, and it is impossible to relate to a proper configuration item, or even like to understand what's wrong with the server, mail server, for example, right?
Yeah, so I'm guessing you seen both where they use the add-ons that ServiceNow provided and add-ons that were like cheap knockoffs or whatever that may have gave that. And you're saying you've seen both worlds, so you could probably help advise companies what worked in the past, what didn't work, if they ask you feedback on the add-ons and things like that, right?
Correct. And I can tell you that even right now, that the way how they build their pricing model, it's really, really like draining. I understand why companies are not trying to acquire all the modules, because they are not using even 70, like sometimes they're using like 40% of capabilities of the modules they acquire.
So they don't want to buy more modules if they're only using a couple as it goes. Yeah.
More money away if they do not utilize already what they have. But without those additional modules or plugins or add-ons, it doesn't make a lot of sense to use ServiceNow because it's not as powerful as it could be. So it's like a cycle, like it's like not like a cycle. It's like a circle. You are stuck.
You're missing out on the big gains that you could potentially have. So, you've shared with me before about dashboard metrics, that you've done dashboards with ServiceNow and all. So, was there ever a big eye opener for a C-suite or a team once they saw what ServiceNow could do with dashboards? Could you enlighten them a little bit on what that really made them excited when you did a dashboard? They're like, oh, what was this? I didn't know we could do that. Is there anywhere you can share something that you experienced with that?
So they have like two types of reporting. The free reporting, which is called like just reporting module,
Mm-hmm.
and they have so-called performance analytics.
Right.
It's a paid add-on as well, which
Okay.
comes with the ITSM Pro license. But reality is that performance analytics are dynamic reports. So that means, and this is the main difference, because usually when you are, this is for, again, this is not for C-level personnel. This is for day-to-day, like service desk management,
Okay.
who need to understand the data and see in a perspective, like on a time span, what was happening, and to understand the trends, right?
Mm-hmm. So can they drill
So
down in
this
it
is
from there?
exactly, they
Okay.
can drill down on any data point and see what's behind it. But again, it's quite sophisticated process, I can tell you,
Okay.
because in order to build those reports correctly, you have to understand their business perspective and what are they trying to calculate.
Okay.
And I can tell you that in my previous company, we had an argument. I was really arguing that such dashboards should be built by me, by business analysts, because I understand both sides of metric, like the business side of the metric and the technical side, how to develop it.
Okay.
But they were saying that we need a developer to develop a metric, but it never worked.
Okay.
I mean, the change was done, so I introduced them to the metric where they were able to understand better and drill into the details of this metrics on a deeper level.
From a business level as much as a technical.
Exactly.
So, what did you ever get to share any of this with like a C-suite type thing, or did they
It's
craft?
an interesting question, and I can tell you, it's like a little bit drawback from or and disadvantage of ServiceNow, because in order for you to provide that to the C-level personnel, you basically need to ask for some external vendors help, because again, there is like this company, they are called Vivid Charts,
Mm-hmm.
and they specialize on reporting and performance analytics in ServiceNow, and they provide their work to the C-level personnel.
Okay.
And that's what they do, like they do it on top of already existing functionalities. They do their due diligence, and they dig into the use cases and develop their own metric to show to the C-level personnel.
So you're saying it's a good idea to hire some experts that build
I
it.
think so,
Okay.
because actually such people, they do not need drill to drill into
Into
the
the
data.
details. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They need a high level overview, and we were struggling with this kind of, but again,
They don't get caught up in the nitty gritty
right,
details of all that.
right.
So the skills you learn from being a ServiceNow business analyst, how how would that be applied to business process mapping? Like if you had to map a one of the things I find in business analysis is that many businesses haven't mapped their process yet. And sometimes something like a ServiceNow says, okay, what are you going to do here? What's your next step? How does that rigor help you or could help you in any place that you might be hired as a business analyst?
I think it's very interesting question as well, because ServiceNow has a structure behind it. It has, as I told you, it has a relational database. It has, on top of it, it's like a backbone of everything.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, for every process, you need to have a database to start with. You have to store your data. You have to be able to store them securely. You have to be able to to basically like wire them, to update them, to create new entries, to delete, and yeah, like just to be able to make sure that you have that in your disposal. Behind it, you can build any other process, like in terms of I don't know, let's say that you want to build an app for uh, for their food delivery,
Okay.
like not weights, but something different, right? So you definitely need to have your information about like all the all the vendors that are there for you to provide the services for food delivery, right? Like the restaurants, all the information about them, and it is stored in your database. But it is also very important to have a user-friendly catalog that will help you search functions, search engines that will help you to make your right solution and right decision. So it's all with ServiceNow. It shows you how the processes can be effectively interrelated when they are structured as suites. It's as suites, like like as a modules.
Okay. So,
So to basically to divide on the basic functionality modules,
okay.
like let's say delivery, pickup, um, like what it's called, ordering,
Yeah.
payment, and based on that, you developed accordingly, like on an iteration in the agile or waterfall process, depending on what you want to do.
Okay. So you got a better handle doing the service now of all the stakeholders that might be part of whatever process you do. How to identify. It helps you identify those stakeholders in that process, as well as what data you need to collect from all those. So, um, you know, so now you are looking for more of a business analyst type position, may or may not be service now. What kind of business or IT areas are you interested in and why?
I think that I would be really interested in something with the utilities, like, like with energy or with some constructions. Actually, I want to try something with sustainability
Okay.
because that was my main focus during my research and during my studies in the German university.
Okay.
I feel so bad that I really went outside of this scope and outside of this area. So I really would like, maybe it's gonna be like energy, sustainable energy, or any even even conventional energy, but with sustainable features, right?
Right.
It can be sustainable design and construction.
Okay.
It can be sustainability in supply chain management.
So
So,
so and you said you had an accounting background too, right?
yeah.
So that'll apply really well in the energy industry. You can apply the renewable sustainability and the accounting part. How do you make all that stuff work together from a business perspective as well? And put
Mm-hmm.
all those tools you learned in the past. So, and as far as those tools in the past, and you, like you said, you went back to Ukraine a little while, and you trained as a business analyst, and you mentioned that they're very much um, Babuk or BA Bach, if you want to say it, Babuk, which is the IIBA version of like the PMBOK, their book of knowledge. And you notice organization could really benefit from the rigor that the PABOK applies, PABOK or
Mm-hmm.
something. Uh, can you share something from that book of knowledge that you think really could benefit? How would you share those lessons you learned with teammates?
I can tell you that I actually was very much impressed by the document that has been written in Ukrainian by the Ukrainian business analyst. For we have this company called Terasoft. They are very similar to Salesforce. It's
Okay.
CRM. But anyway, so they had a side project that has been given to us, and I was reading their technical, like their BRD. I was really surprised to see for the first time in my career, I've seen someone structuring business like requirements according to the main four types of requirements from BABA.
Okay.
Meaning that they have identified like the high level business requirements and stakeholder requirements and solution requirements and functional, non-functional requirements and even transaction requirements. I think they're called transition requirements. Yes, so it was such a pleasure to read this document because it made everything clear in your head. And for me, it was challenge because I don't know how to write it in Ukrainian. Like I worked so much in English-based and English dominated industry that I don't even know how to write the same information in Ukrainian because it's different language, different terminology, different translation of
Yeah.
main terms. But I was really amazed because, like as an example of this requirements, I can tell you, like for example, I think that was a project about customization relationship management like business relationship management for the bank.
Mm-hmm.
And they wanted to automate customer relationship management to offer better customer service to improve customer response.
Okay.
Um, and I mean, that business analyst wrote like directly that we would like as a like I don't know, let's say customer relationship manager like department, but not head of department,
Right.
like the
Right.
person on the C levels.
Mm-hmm. Like an executive or something.
Yes. So he says that this is like a sponsor of their project,
Yep.
and he gives you a business requirement. The business
Okay.
requirement is to automate customer relationship management system so that they can offer better customer service to improve customer response by like I don't know like by 60%
Yeah.
in 1 year. So this is like a great explanation of business requirement where it's smart because business requirement defines goal and business outcome of this goal. So
Okay.
it's a smart definition of a goal. It has how much, it has a time limit, it has everything, and that
That's
is
that's good because that's kind of where a lot of people don't put that information in their requirements, and when they write, let's say, user stories, right? They when they do descriptions versus acceptance criteria, what would you say is maybe because those are good points that I don't see a lot of times in the description of a requirement or a story as much anymore. What the time based and what the goals are and things like that, and you know maybe you could work with your teammates with the IIBA version of the BA book of knowledge, and you can go through it and say, okay, here's some points we can bring into what we're doing, especially here in the United States, and improve our story writing. And you mentioned something about the use of descriptions versus acceptance criteria.
Yeah.
And you were really like you've seen different teams, and you came in and you've helped teams actually write their acceptance criteria. Maybe they didn't have them before. What was your experience with doing something like that?
So I can tell you again, and that I've been taught that in Ukraine when I completed some courses in business analysis in Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
So, to write acceptance criteria, of course, like let's say this short description is understandable, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
just a short statement. Description is as role I would like the action so that business value. And a lot of people do not put the business value for after the so that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, to basically show that how so that it has to be measurable, right? It's not so that the system is more user friendly. What do you mean more user friendly? What does it mean? Like, what does it mean more user friendly? Where how you measure more user friendly? What does it do? Does it like allow you to search better? Does it really structure the catalog in a better way for you to find there are, the categories that you're looking for? What do you mean for user friendly? So a lot of people do not even write the description correctly,
Yeah.
because they write like I've seen so many times that the short description has been one line, and the description was like paragraph, and then the same paragraph was copied in the acceptance criterion.
Okay. Now that's good. That's good. That's a good lead into. So how should the acceptance criteria be different? Now I always believe that acceptance criteria is different from testing criteria, right? It's a
Correct.
whole different thing. So can you briefly summarize what should acceptance criteria kind of show you?
So I will advocate for this format that I told you
Okay.
about, which is given, when, then.
Okay.
So as an example, you can say that are given, we have an integration between system A and system B. They're integrated. System B can talk to system A and vice versa. So we would like to what happens when something changes in system A, this change has to be uh, automatically accepted to system like transferred to system B, but there are several limitations when, for example, some changes don't have to go,
Okay.
or some changes have to go on a higher speed, like or on a like with different elements being transferred from different fields. This is very interesting approach. And on top of it, for testing, I can tell you that like well-written acceptance criteria defines your testing. Like again, you have to test like several users. Like in ServiceNow, you have ideal user, you have end user, and you have system administrator. So when you are testing the functionality of the story, you always have to test like as a ideal user, the person who has like access to the modules. You have to test as a system administrator, and you have to test as a person who doesn't have any access to the backend functionality or to the functionality where the service desk is doing their job.
Yeah, and that's where I always saw testing cases are more detailed, more
Right.
dynamic, and all those different. Where the acceptance criteria is, I'm not going to take a business unit and make them sit for 10 weeks figuring out all the different use cases and all the very. That's what I'm going to do with the testing and the business people. I'm going to pick a couple areas that they really see the value on and run those acceptance tests where they see the biggest value coming in from this
But
device.
again, that comes from the acceptance criteria.
Right.
Like if you don't have a very well-defined acceptance criteria, then it's gonna fail.
Yeah, it's going to go all over the place. I agree totally. So, what do you think? Because we mentioned this too before, and this coming down to the end here. What do you think? Here's my thing. I think product owners and agile teams are really missing out if they don't hire an experienced business analyst on their team. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I seen them. They all. I'm doing this myself. First thing at some place, I go to the product and I go, so when you get that business analyst? Oh, I don't need it. I can do it all myself. And I go, no, you need a business analyst.
Yeah.
And within 2 or 3 sprints, they're hiring a business analyst. I'm just going to be honest with, oh, we don't need it. We just did it. So, one of the things we talked about is breaking down larger epic stories into smaller stories that fit in the sprints. And you mentioned a little story on how you see that, where the business analyst really helps do that for you, for your team.
Yeah, this is correct. I mean, again, as an example from the bubble definition of for definition of requirements. I mean, let's say that you have the business requirement, which is, oh my God, someone is which is, let me just make this going now. Which is the high level, right? Then you have stakeholders. When you have to identify those people who are interested in the solution and from which perspective and which in like what department, what kind of functions they perform, what are their interests in the solution, what they will be doing. And then you have solution requirements also, and you are subdividing them, and it's about capabilities and qualities of your system. So capabilities that are defining the functional requirements, and based on the functional requirements, you can start creating your epics, and based on the epics, you can start creating your stories on a smaller, so that you can again define this module. If we are talking about procurement, or if we're talking about ordering in this in the app for food delivery, right? You will take ordering separately from payments, right? You will be really subdividing them into different modules to focus on the functionality that is allowing you to order, but then you have to connect everything in a bigger scope and integrate all these modules together to glue them together to make them work together as effective and efficient system.
Yeah, and you mentioned that, and I've seen it where you have the business was, I want to make a sale. Right, okay. Then what does that trigger? Can trigger order processing, inventory, credit card, updating customer database, history. I mean, it could all be broken down to all these different little modules, and all they want to know is, I just want to buy something, And I think.
But this is otherwise how you can build a system in a different way. I mean, because right now the competition is so high, and so the systems are so big. The software industry is so competitive. Look at AI. Right now, they're going to be saying that you don't need business analysts because you have AI.
Well, who trains the AI?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. The product owner will go to AI and say, write me user stories. They don't even know how to write those user stories, but how to write prompts for AI. But they will say, write me user stories for this functionality.
Yeah. It is pretty amazing what it will do in the AI realm as well. Okay. So, lastly, how can people get in touch with you if they're interested in learning more about, or even hiring you as a business analyst or anything like that? Can you share some ways that people can reach out to you and bring you on board?
Yeah, definitely. Or how I can be reached. You can find me on LinkedIn. It's on Viktoriia, Viktoria. My last name, Kondratova, Kondratova. Or you can also write me an email. The email is very simple. It's Viktoriia, Kondratova@gmail.com.
Okay, and we'll put all that stuff in the notes for the session, everything, so people can find you that way. And I want to thank you for coming out and sharing your story and your journey and talking about learn a lot about business now and how a business analyst pull all this stuff together and put it together for their companies and all. And I want to thank you again for coming.
Thank you, Rack, for invitation. It was such a pleasure to get to know you, and your book is amazing. I will definitely have a look in more precisely.
Okay.
And like I think this is a really good it's a really good start, and I'm glad that we touched a lot of interesting topics and they're useful. And I think that your those videos is a really good idea for both professionals to get their point across, and for you to gather all that information maybe for the next book.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I enjoy these interviews because I get to meet smart people like you. I learned all kinds of stuff during our conversation. So, and one of the things you had reached out and said, "Hey, can you help me like share my resume out?" And I said, "How would you like to do an interview?" And you're like,
Yeah,
"Sure,
that
why
is
not?" Right?
cool.
And I'm trying to tell people that
Something
too.
that has been
I mean, what's
happening.
better than the social media and like, okay, let's meet you, and get a little plugs out there and everything like that. So I think this is much better than just the resume share because I'll be sharing this with all
Right.
the audiences and stuff
It's
like that.
it's a new approach. You are
Yeah.
an innovator.
All right, appreciate that. And again, thanks for coming out and sharing your story.
Definitely. Thank you, Greg.
All right,
Appreciate it.
have a great day. All right.